Welcome back to Around the House, sponsored by Romac Lumber. I'm your host, Magruder, and we're having a great discussion today about how you can successfully go through the custom building process. Had a great guest earlier, but now we're going to talk about your plans. And with us, we have Jeremy Lipham. He's the Design Center Manager for Romac Lumber, and we're going to talk about how you get through the custom plan process. Jeremy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, Don. How are you?
Tell us a little bit about the Romac Lumber Design Center, what you guys do, and just a general scope and how you can be contacted.
Well, Don, we're located at 700 East Main Street, right off the showroom floor at Romac Lumber and Supply. You can contact us, by calling the main store at 787-4545 and just ask for the Design Center. They'll transfer you right through.
Now, Jeremy, there are 3 drafts people in your group, and you have engineering that's done through the group also. Let's talk a little bit about the types of plans you design. First off, what type of projects will you design?
Mainly we focus on residential projects and storage projects. In the residential market, we'll do anything from custom homes to new single family residences to additions and renovations, and also, storage buildings, detached garages, all the way, we'll even do custom pole barns.
Now, you do a lot of additions and remodels from homes at the villages, all the neighborhood subdivisions. You're sort of scattered everywhere, aren't you?
Yeah, we do a lot of custom renovations and additions. That seems to be a big trend these days. Everybody just wants to renovate what they already have instead of looking to do.
Now, one big advantage you do have, and we've talked about this before, is that Romac Truss has designed roof truss systems throughout all the various developments in Central Florida.
Yes, sir.
And because you design these truss systems, you can incorporate it. Your system, tell us about how you can incorporate actual truss designs into the system, which is different from most designers.
Yes, sir. Our system has been integrated with our truss design software, so the actual 2 software programs can communicate back and forth with each other. So we can do a 3-dimensional truss design and actually incorporate those truss designs into our plan model design, so you can automatically see if there's any kind of interference conditions with your roof trusses as far as ceiling lines or roof lines, or if there's going to be any problems.
And I know that doesn't sound like a big deal for a lot of our viewers and listeners, but it's a big deal in this sense. You tell me if I'm wrong. By your experience to incorporate roof trusses, when you do a remodel project, it's not like you're going to be able to drive down the road and say, oh, this part's been added to the house. You typically can blend it in perfectly, can't you?
Yes, we take the approach with remodels and additions we don't want the end result to look like an addition. I mean, the ultimate goal is to add this space to the existing structure and make it look like it was there from the beginning, that it was always part of the original structure. So with our 3D design and then truss technology, we can put it all together and make sure it blends so that it doesn't look like an addition. And
plus, you and the truss people will do on-site measurements to make sure there's a perfect match on the trusses, won't you?
Yeah, we send a field representative from the truss plant out on every addition to make sure that what we build in the truss plant is going to line up exactly with the existing trusses, so that there's not any unnecessary bumps or steps ups in the fascia lines or anything like that.
What makes, in your view, Romac Lumber designs and their plan designs different and better than others?
There's several things, but mainly I would have to say it'd be the ability to tap into the wealth of knowledge that Romac Lumber and Supply has, whether it be with the truss systems or our millwork facilities or custom windows and those different trades and if a customer's got specific questions about certain things, we have somebody on staff that can answer those questions immediately.
And that's a very important thing. For example, if someone's building a house or building a remodel and they have questions about doors and windows and garage doors, because Romac Lumber is a full supplier of those, they can get them the detailed information. Because isn't one of the problems with plans that a lot of plans are drawn generically without the proper doors and windows and put in place?
Yes, sir. Especially when you get into the custom houses and the custom renovations. If a homeowner decides they want a specific look to their windows, you really want to nail down the manufacturer of those windows so you make sure you got the right sizes and the rough openings and all that incorporated into the plan. Otherwise, you're going to be having to do changes afterwards.
Let me ask something, Jeremy. I've been told by a lot of people the biggest hurdles in a good set of plans is getting great detailed plans up front.
Yes.
People don't want to take the time up front to say, okay, I want a FC 100 fiberglass door here, and I want it 3.0, and I want it to swing a certain way, and they want a certain window with a certain grid pattern, and they want certain signs. A lot of draftsmen will just draw generic holes and then give you the plans and say, you go figure it out. And then that's where the mistakes on job sites happen. Isn't that some of the things you tried to avoid at the Romac Design Center?
Yes, we try to really want to take the time to make sure you got the right products, what the homeowner wants, incorporated in the plans. Because, yeah, again, if you start changing your doors or windows or changing manufacturers after the construction process begins, you know, one manufacturer may have a different rough opening size than another manufacturer. So if you plan for manufacturer A and you choose manufacturer B, well, the next thing you know, your opening sizes don't match, and you're either having to frame in an opening or create a bigger opening. And in a block house, that's a big issue. In
the earlier segment, we talked to Mike Neese from American Family Homes, and he stressed the importance of having great details and great understanding. That's really critical when you're doing a new set of plans, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Details everything, especially when you get down into the construction detailing about how things are tied together. You got to take the time to make sure you illustrate how everything's to go together so that the guys in the field don't have questions and second guess and do things wrong.
So realistically, on a set of plans, you got three components. You have the look component, the aesthetics component that the customer or the client wants to meet, and then you have the component in which it has to be put together. I don't know how many times in my lifetime I've seen plans that people couldn't build.
Yes. I mean, you got those components, and again, the main thing with the setup, you know, if you want to look at a good set of house plans, is to make sure that you got plenty of detail, plenty of dimensions, plenty of notes. You want everything spelled out, especially if the homeowner or somebody has specific items they want illustrated in the house. You got to make sure that stuff is spelled out so that it's not missed in the construction process.
How important is it for someone to come into a project knowing what they want up front? Or do you think, for example, Romac Lumber has the huge design center with the displays and all that? Can someone come to Romac and they can see the displays and you can incorporate it after it, or do you feel like they need to know up front what type of doors and windows they want?
I think they really just need to have an idea of what kind of doors and windows they want. I mean, we get a lot of homeowners that come in and they just have a basic idea of what it is they're looking for, and that helps us because we can steer them down the road as to what manufacturer. You know, we can set them with the window specialist or a millwork specialist, and we can kind of get a lot of their questions answered, and then they can start to nail down the manufacturer. I think it's better that way. Sometimes if they have a specific idea up front, a lot of times they'll come in and talk to us, and that they'll change their mind and decide to go down a different road.
You're listening to Around the House, sponsored by Romac Lumber. I'm your host, Don Magruder, and today we're having a wonderful conversation with Jeremy Lipham. He's the manager of the Romac Lumber Design Center right here in Leesburg, and we're talking about how do you draw the most effective set of custom plans, whether it's remodel or new home, and Jeremy's an expert with that. Let's talk about the process. All right. Someone comes in and they're dreaming about having a new home plan design. Take us through the process. What's going to happen? Say they're listening to this show and they say, well, I want to talk to Jeremy at the Romac Lumber Design Center. What numbers are they going to call?
Well, they need to call the main store at 352-787-4545.
And then they're going to ask for Jeremy.
Just ask for Jeremy or just the Design Center.
Okay, and then from there, what's going to happen?
Well, they'll transfer you to the design center. We'll answer the phone. We'll get you set up with an appointment to come in for an initial consultation to find out what type of project you want to do.
Now, is there any charge for this initial consultation?
No, sir. It doesn't cost you a thing to come in and talk to us, and so we can kind of figure out what you want to do, and we'll take it from there.
Okay, so they come in for the initial consultation. What happens from there? Say the consultation went well and they want you to design the plan.
Well, in that initial consultation, we'll outline the wants and the needs and get, a basic budget for what it is they're wanting to do. And then we start to develop a preliminary process and get some preliminary designs going to incorporate their wants and needs. And then we'll usually have the homeowner come back in for another meeting, sit down and look at what we've put together. And we'll start to build off of that. Usually through 2 to 3 different consultation meetings, we'll get a firm plan laid out for what they want.
So you're going to do a preliminary plan, then you're going to present that to the homeowner, and then they're going to have a chance to, a lot of times they call it redlining, don't
Yes,
they?
sir.
Where they'll mark it up saying, that's not really what I wanted, and this type, and they'll try to make changes. How many different sets of red lines do you go through?
We usually go through 2 to 3. I mean, a lot of times, depending on how much the customer knows about what it is they need, we can get it done in 2. But if the customer just kind of has a basic idea or general idea, we'll go into 3 revisions sometimes.
How long does the process take? For example, if someone called you today and they wanted a set of plans and they're going to be a custom set of home plans, what type of time element do you anticipate? Now, of course, I know it's relative. Someone could come in tomorrow and say they want an immediate set of home plans, not have any changes, and I'm sure you could have it out in a week, couldn't you?
Yeah, a week to 2 weeks, we could do something like that.
But if someone were going through the typical process of they're going to get a consultation, 2 or 3 red lines, going through back and forth, really working out a good set of plans, what's the general time period?
To really work out a good set of plans and to make sure you get the homeowner's wants and needs in there and to give them the time to think about what it is they want, I would say you're probably looking 2 to 3 months.
The biggest thing is the homeowner has to be sure.
Yes.
And this is not the time to rush through a set of plans, is it?
No, I encourage everybody, when you're planning the process, this is the planning process. You don't want to rush the planning process. When they come back in after we do the preliminary plans, I encourage them to take the plans home and think about it and sleep on it a couple nights and, really hash out your decisions, because once you're done with me and the plans are sealed and ready to go for permitting and construction, you don't want to be making changes.
What is, in your view, if you were going to give someone some good advice for doing a great set of custom remodel plans, addition plans, or maybe a new home, what is, in your view, the most important thing they should consider during the design and process?
Their needs. I mean, you're putting this addition on, or you're building a custom house for a reason. You have needs that you're trying to accommodate. Those needs need to come ahead of wants. So it's really time to put in focus what you're wanting to do and what you're needing to do.
Do you ever encourage clients to look at the long view? For example, say you have a client that comes in that's 62, 63 years old, and this is their last home. Do a big deal is as you get older, you lose mobility, and there's certain issues about getting in showers and getting through wider doorways and stuff, and handicap thresholds. Do you ever discuss those with clients to make sure they understand the ramifications?
Yes, we do. And believe it or not, a lot of the homeowners that come in that age group, they have already thought about those things, but we do encourage them to think about it. We also encourage people to think about resale value, and a lot of times in this area with the elderly market, resale value also, you have to take into account those mobility issues, whether you want to have handicapped bathrooms or handicapped accessible tubs and showers. So it is wise to think about those things when you're thinking about the process.
Is that starting to become a bigger part of the design process, mobility and disability issues for all housing?
Yes. I mean, even some of the builders that I'm doing custom homes for are coming in and they want everything to be thinking about the mobility issues, putting all slabs one level, making sure you got wide enough doorways, wide enough hallways, that the bathroom's big enough to be able to get a wheelchair in and out of, that you can get in and out of the shower. You know, you see a lot of times in the master bathrooms just straight roll-in showers, so that there's no curbs or tripping hazards or anything like that.
Well, it's amazing how home designs have changed. There's really not a norm, is it? If someone comes in here and says, well, I want to build a house like everyone in Florida, there's really not one. And there's standards, let's put it like that. But you guys can incorporate a bunch of different visions, can't you?
Yes. I mean, you do have the standards. You got things you got to adhere to. You know, the Florida Building Code, they dictate a lot of your standards. But yes, as long as we go above and beyond the Florida Building Code, as far as their requirements are, you know, sky's the limit.
And that's one thing you talked about earlier. All your plans will meet Florida's. They're sealed and will meet Florida's strict hurricane codes, won't they?
Yes, sir. We partner with Riddle and Newman Engineering in Leesburg, and they review all of our plans to ensure structural integrity and that it will meet the Florida Building Code.
You told me about a situation a few months ago in which someone came in. They had purchased a set of plans from somewhere up north, and they want to build that house. And they structurally could not build the house here, and it didn't incorporate the plans. And there was a frustrating thing because you couldn't draw their plans. Talk a minute about copyright issues with plans and how custom homes, you know, you've got to be your own plan, and also about the code issue and buying plans outside the state, because a lot of people have spent money on plans and it's just wasted it, haven't they?
Yeah, there's a lot of times that homeowners or people, when they're thinking about building a house, the most popular thing to do is go on the internet and start looking for house plans, or get a catalog and start looking through the catalog for house plans. And they find one they like, and they go ahead and they take the steps to purchase that set of plans. Well, unfortunately, that set of plans will come to you, and it's usually drawn by somebody out of the state of Florida. It doesn't come engineered. It doesn't come with any details, and a lot of times the way the roof structures and everything are put together just won't line up with what we have to do in the state of Florida. So they purchased a set of plans that is basically useless, and they're going to have things redrawn or re-engineered to be able to make it work. And that usually means the room sizes have to change. Sometimes you even have to get rid of rooms to be able to make things work. So the house that they fell in love with in the catalog is not what they're going to end up with.
Talk a minute about some of the differences in Florida's hurricane codes versus like upper Georgia or in the not coastal Carolina, but the mountains.
Well, up there in the mountains, they have a totally different environment that they have to consider when they're doing a set of houses. We have to think about wind. That's the major thing in Florida, is the wind codes and water. Where you're up North Georgia in the mountains and that area, you got snow loads. So that's they're more worried about the gravity on the roof, where we're more worried about the uplift on the roof.
And those snow loads, a lot of times if you use a plan from those areas, you're going to put too much money in your roof, aren't you?
Yeah, you're going to put too much money on your roof. And when you get into the mountains and stuff, those types of roof structures are usually conventionally framed. And they're able to get more area out of their roof, where we have to put more structural bracing in our roof systems to incorporate those, to counteract those wind forces that we get during hurricanes. So there's a big difference in how roofs and houses are constructed between the two states.
You're listening to Around the House, sponsored by Romac Lumber. We're having a great conversation with Jeremy Lipham. He's the manager of the Romac Lumber Design Center, and we're talking about how you can successfully design a set of custom, remodel, and addition or new home plans, and great discussion. And Jeremy, one big deal in the state of Florida now, it's become a bigger issue every year, is the insulation code.
Yes, sir.
And why don't you discuss a minute about what the insulation code means to people?
The state of Florida has gotten very strict on energy codes and energy conservation. So they're wanting houses to meet certain levels of energy code compliance. When you get there through your insulation or the types of windows that you use, or the type of mechanical AC equipment that you're using. But a lot of times, depending on the different insulation types, you can usually save money on your windows and you can save money on your AC system. So you see a lot of houses going for the spray foam insulation, And there's a lot of new technology out there. So depending on the type of house the person wants, depending on which way we go to accommodate their installation needs.
A lot of people have gone to other draftsmen, designers, architects to get plans, and they've struggled with them. What's some of the key elements of a good set of plans? And if someone's watching or listening today, and they say, well, you know, I got this set of plans, I'm not sure it's a good set of plans. Tell me, what are some of the characteristics of a great set of plans?
One of the main things you can look for on a set of plans is dimensions and notes. You want everything. There's never such thing as too many dimensions or too many notes, especially if you're a homeowner and you have these special needs, you know, archways, doorways, special cabinets, special things that you want incorporated in your house. You want to make sure those things are detailed and called out on your set of plans. When you're looking,
because if they're not called out, when it gets to the hammer to nail time, it's probably not going to get done, is it?
I can't tell you how many times I've heard, you know, somebody would have a set of house plans and they're working with a builder and they get down and then there's a certain columns or different architectural details missing out of their house, and they're, you know, ask the builder, where did this? The builder says, well, that wasn't on the plans, so it's either additional cost to the homeowner or it just doesn't get done.
You've done a lot of plans, a lot of remodels, a lot of additions. What's the most common mistake people are making when they're designing a custom remodel or custom new home?
Not taking into account the existing structure.
Okay, and how does that, elaborate a little bit on that for me.
Well, a lot of times you may be taking out an existing wall or, again, lining up an existing roof line, and if they just go into it without considering the existing structure and they just design a room addition per se, and they didn't take into account the existing roof line or existing bearing walls, you end up with structural support issues, or you may end up with a roof design that doesn't flow with the theme of the house. You
know, the other thing, it's amazing what technology has done and is doing in the building material industry. For example, when I built a house 10 years ago, I used a all borate lumber system, and I had no pest control, borate trusses and all, never have to worry about moths and termites. That's something, by doing your design center, you can pick up some of those keys, can't you?
Yes, sir. It's beneficial through us, because we have the lumber yard there. We have the windows and the doors. We have that information so that we know little tricks of the trades to offer homeowners. And if you do it this way, you can save a little bit here or there.
Well, I'm going to tell you the one trick I wish I would have incorporated on my house, and technology wasn't there 7, 8, 9 years ago, but I would recommend anybody doing an addition. I love this Roxul insulation that's come out. Roxul insulation is an insulation that's made out of volcanic rock, and it's fire resistant, moisture resistant, but most importantly, sound resistant. And to me, anybody that's building a house with bathrooms and wants private bedrooms and stuff, you should put the Roxul insulation around, along with solid core soundproof doors. It will be amazing how quiet your house is. Recently, the reason why I bring this up, there was a client that came in, and one of the spouses had some hearing issues, and you have to design for that. And I think they designed some Roxul insulation to soundproof a television room that really saved a lot of sanity in the room. That's some of the little tricks you can bring in, isn't it?
Yes, sir. We have that, that knowledge of the building material industry, and the new technology is coming on board to be able to incorporate in your design to help you with your various needs. And we also have seasoned construction specialists on our staff, as far as sales representatives go, that really have a good firm handle on the new technology and construction materials.
Now, as you said earlier, you do a lot of remodel plans for developments all over. Give us some trends today in remodels and developments and our plans. What are some of the remodel and addition trends you're seeing that's real popular with people?
Most of them, two biggest things I would see is either adding an additional bathroom that has the mobility access things taken care of, or the biggest one I would say is taking their screen lanai, converting it into a conditioned space.
And one thing about the screen lanais, talk a minute about trenching, doing it where you trench the the slab so the slab so water won't come back. That's a big deal sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a big deal. You know, a lot of the time these lanais, they're sloped away, they're sloped towards the lanai. It depends on if you have a pool deck or not. And you have to be careful with how you close that in. A lot of times it's just better to go ahead and cap the slab, bring that slab up to the same height as the finished floor level of the house, so that your new sliding glass doors and your windows and everything is above grade.
And recessing the sill is very important, especially if you have a short overhang, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
That, because the short overhang will allow water to maybe seep underneath the door, and if you recess it, you'll lose a lot of that. When an owner reviews a set of plans, say for example, you design a set of plans and you give them that final set for the last time, or maybe it's a preliminary set, what are some of the things they should closest look at? What would be the things, if it was your set of plans, you'd look at to make sure it was right?
To make sure that it's accomplished my wants and needs, especially if we've gone over revisions and red lines. When you get that set of plans back, make sure that everything that you redlined and all the changes that you wanted to be incorporated in the plans have been taken care of and done and noted.
Want to talk a little bit about cost, you know, in general. Set of house plans, or how are plans figured? By how complicated they are, by square footage, or how do most people figure them?
They usually go by square footage. You know, sometimes you can take complexity into the account, but for the, you know, a general rule of thumb, a basic set of house plans is going to be around 90 cents to $1 a square foot.
And should anybody pay for them in advance? How do you, in other words, if you were going to advise somebody, we're talking to a draftsman about buying plans, the consultation, I know at Romac Lumber, the first one is free, but how does the payment cycle work?
At Romac, we kind of break it down for, let's just say if we were doing a custom house, we break it down into 4 installment payments. One's going to be a preliminary deposit they put down on a set of plans, and that gets them a preliminary floor plan and elevations. And then we have another payment that comes in when the elevations and electrical and all that's done. Before we go to engineering, they make the 3rd payment, but they don't make the final payment until the engineered plans are ready and we're handing them their set of plans for permitting.
So unlike someone buying plans over the internet, they're not going to get a set of plans from you, or will have to pay for a complete set of plans until their shirt's properly engineered, properly designed, and ready to go.
Yes, sir.
Okay. We've had a great discussion with Jeremy Lipham. He's the manager of the Romac Lumber Design Center. They do great work. Jeremy, once again, if someone has some questions about things we talked about today, how can they contact you, how can they visit you, and how can they call you?
We are located at 700 East Main Street, main Romac Lumber Store, right off the showroom floor. They can email us at designcenter@romaclumber.com, or they can give us a call, 352-787-4545.
And would like to thank you for viewing and listening today. You can join us every Monday from 12 to 1 on WLBE 790 AM. And be sure to catch the Around the House column Saturdays in the Daily Commercial in the home section, and Wednesdays in the South Lake Press. Until next week, we will see you around the house.